represents beauty. Tadadin represents blessing. Tadadin represents harmony. Tadadin represents balance. As to where alongside it, Kitso was put there. So the holy people, the grandfather, said that the uranium, if you choose that, it's going to come with a lot of negativity, a lot of illness, a lot of sickness. For that reason, the holy people decided to take that uranium and put it in the ground, and that's where it should stay. It should not be put to the surface. It should not be brought up to the surface, because it's going to come with a lot of unhealthiness, sickness and illness. That's what it's going to come with. So for that reason, they put the uranium in the ground and left the tadadin, the corn pollen, on the surface for the holy people, for the earth surface people. Somewhere along the way, the uranium was brought back to the surface, and sure enough, it came with a lot of sickness. It came with a disease to where the people call it Shotonatsi. There's not a translation for the cancer in our language, because it's foreign. People, the grandfathers, the medicine people, are still yet trying to figure out what they're going to call it. So the nearest translation of cancer is Shotonatsi. But Shotonatsi is sore that never heals. Automatically it brings to the mind that if a person is diagnosed with cancer, Shotonatsi, what does that do to a mind? Automatically a person says, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Out there, there's no cure. There's no cure. That's one thing that comes to the mind. Grandfathers also said that the mental being has a lot to do with keeping yourself healthy. There are certain places where people have healed themselves just through thinking that they're well, thinking that they're not sick. So when you come upon somebody that's diagnosed with cancer, says, you've been diagnosed with the sore that never heals. It brings shock to the mind. With Asian cultural sensitivity, we need to understand it, ladies and gentlemen. We need to understand that if there is a diagnosis for this cancer, we need to figure out ways how we're going to inform the patient about these things without shocking them. Because it's kind of like a sentence, you know, a death sentence, when you straight up and talk to the individual that way. Because we have certain ways of talking to one another as the net people. We have certain ways of communicating with each other's. My mother, my grandmother, my grandfathers always said, don't look directly at your sister. Don't look directly at her and don't talk directly at her. One time my grandmother was talking to his brother. I witnessed it when I was in high. My nully lady, my paternal grandfather, was looking away from his brother, holding a blanket. One should sleep with this, is what she said. Is the notation. Looking the other way, handing her brother the blanket. So they didn't directly look at one another out of respect. Today, we see brothers and sisters sleeping in one bed or living in one home and just touching, having physical contact with one another. As to a long time ago, we never used to do that. Those are some of the things that we've lost. Today, we're trying to reteach a lot of these things. And because we've lost a lot of our traditional teachings, Our young people have very little knowledge about spirituality. Grandfathers always said, continuously, you gotta have a protection ceremony. The protection ceremonies are things, it's a ceremony that's going to keep all the unhealthy energy at bay, keep all these illnesses at bay. And these are the ceremonies of that, because there's protection songs out there that talks about protection of the physical, protection of the mental, and protection of the spirit, and protection of the unit, the nucleus of the family. They used to sing. When you go out early morning dawn, you go out there and sing for knowledge, is what they said. Because in the early morning dawn, before that sun comes up, there's a lot of knowledge. My little sister talked about the prayer that was said this morning. The talking spirit comes out in the early morning dawn with a lot of wisdom, a lot of teachings. And you stand there and offer cornmeal, corn pollen, and ask for these teachings. These teachings, not only blessing teachings, but also the unhealthy teachings, so you will figure out ways to keep them at bay through the traditional protection songs, and through the blessing song, to give you the teachings about self-awareness, to be aware of your physical, every centimeter of your body. If you feel pain, if you feel discomfort somewhere, and then you go to a diagnostician and find out what this discomfort, and what this pain comes from. And the traditional diagnostician will say, this is the kind of ceremony that you need. Because lack of knowledge and lack of teachings and our traditional ways and our language, as someone said here, my little sister said, we're getting away from that. And because of that, we don't have respect for this life anymore. We don't have respect for our culture. We don't have respect for our prayers anymore. We don't acknowledge the holy people. They give us the protection. We don't do that anymore. The one thing that we emerge into this world, and the glittering world, is called pt2. Translated, sweat lodge. The sweat lodge is a ceremony in the South where it can do a lot of healing, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I support this pt2, the sweat lodge, a lot, because I myself facilitate I had an uncle, clan uncle. He was diagnosed with cancer. The doctors gave up on him. He said that we can't do it anymore. Now it's going to be up to you. So through that, he had this faith in his mind, because his grandfathers taught him that you have to fight for this life every possible way. So through that, he had about maybe 6, 7 sweat lodge ceremonies. The cancer was coming out on his side right here. It was like a big bruise on the side right here. It was ready to come to the surface on his side. So the 7th time into the sweat lodge, they brought a lot of herbs, different type of herbs, healing herbs. He was brought into the sweat lodge, and he consumed all that, he drank all that tea, the herbal tea, the medic tea. On the 7th and the 4th round, he came out of it. Be a little bit graphic, ladies and gentlemen. He came outside, and he went to the side, and he started to throw up. And out of that, he had nothing but blood clots came out of his system when he drank all this emetic tea. The medicine, the tea, he brought the cancer out of his system. And he got healed. And he stayed with us many more years before he passed on with natural causes. We need to come back to our culture. We need to come back to our tradition.